who would benefit from this political discourse, and they may or they may not choose the policies which we are suggesting. But at least this span gives us an opportunity to generate a healthy discourse which we feel is deficient in our polity. Military is providing all the inputs which we are asking them. They are not overstepping even in a slightest manner. There is no sense where I feel that my government is being dictated. Yes, in a couple of areas, particularly security, and some initiative on the economic front. We are working together, we have coalesced, and that is a partnership which is based on willingness. And both the sides, on mutually dignified and mutual respected manner, are communicating with each other. And we do understand, for instance, there was a crisis on Battagram where few of our children were stuck. At that moment, this thought came to my mind that the provincial disaster management ideally should have been there to rescue those children. So if I wanted to exercise this civil-military imbalance relationship and apply it in its spirit, I would have lost those 9 children. So the choice was with me that do I approach military to rescue my 9 children or entangle myself in this debate that it would look like as they are overstepping in our governance. So I chose the latter and saved those 9 children. Unfortunately, by design or by default, some of our organizational capacity in terms of governance has compromised themselves, and in that service delivery vacuum, we have to rely on the military institution. So everyone who's interested that they should stop delivering and playing that role, the solution-based approach or the answer lies the enhancement of those organizations and their service delivery. If you do not do that, if you do not focus on performance, we're going to be with this arrangement for next couple of centuries.
I have 2 questions. If we can go back to talking about the crisis with electricity bills. Mm-hmm. So given the fact that your government has a limited amount of time, one of the things that you could do, in fact there's a growing demand of calling the IPPs to the table and renegotiating the agreements. So is that something specifically that your government is considering? Will you be renegotiating the contracts? As
far as the IPP and our mandate with them, contractual obligations are concerned, the good news is we are discussing it, and we are discussing it thoroughly. How much we have discussed, what we have discussed, we will not bring it into the public domain. We are on a course where we feel that we should find some sort of resolution as everyone feels that they are uneven contracts. Having said this, it should just be enough for the moment that we are in the process. A
question, if I may.
Please.
This is about the Army Chief's meeting with business leaders a few days ago. I think it was yesterday. So the reports are that he talked about getting 25 billion from the Saudis, and I believe 25 billion from the UAE as well. Is there a time frame for this? Is there more that you can tell us about this, specifically about this coming from the Saudis and the UAE? And if this 25 billion figure is something you can confirm? Thank you.
I do confirm, and in a follow-up of explanation, I would attempt that this is spread probably between 2 to 4 or 5 years. And in this span of time, these projects are to the tune of this amount would be realized, and it is in different sectors, particularly mines and minerals, agriculture, and IT sector.
Question is, you mentioned that the most meetings you've had is on the energy sector. So you may have an idea that Pakistan needs to raise gas prices, and there needs to be a quarterly adjustment in the power tariff as well. Are you committed to increasing them?
All these decisions or the specifics would be done once we have the relevant input of the experts, and accordingly it would be announced and it would be known.
My question is about the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Actually, we know that the outgoing former government have already held a celebration of the CPEC's 10th anniversary. I would like to know your government's view on the CPEC or any plan on CPEC. Second, is there any plan for your government members to attend for the participation on the coming Belt and Road Global Cooperation Summit, which is going to be held in mid-October?
Well, there is no question of not participation of Pakistan on Belt and Road Initiative, be any event which is organized by China. I mean, everyone knows that we have a deep-rooted relationship with China without placement of any incumbency. It is irrelevant in Pakistan who's on this chair. China is a must policy with any government of Pakistan. We look forward to attend any, either it would depend on the level of invitation, but our wholesome participation would be there and would be very conspicuous. Secondly, the CPAC, we view it with a very positive trajectory that it's going to enter into second or third phase of its projection, and we would fully coordinate and cooperate in its maturing phases, and I am pretty much sure it will bring those promised dividends for which it was initially envisioned.
Afghan refugees. After Taliban took over in Afghanistan, there have been a fresh influx of a different type of Afghan population in Pakistan. They have money, they can spend, they are not in refugee camps, but many areas of Islamabad and even Rawalpindi, they have converted into Afghan localities. So what do you say about that Afghan refugee, any policy?
Pakistan has shown a largesse and magnanimity for almost 5 decades to their Afghan brothers. There are 3 types of Afghan individuals in this country. One is the registered refugees in the camp, which according to our conventions to the UN different agencies, we are obliged to provide protection to them. There are around 2.8 million people, registered refugees. Then there are people who are occupying our land space in an illegal manner. They're aliens. And then there are people who have gone and they have penetrated our systems of the government, and they are living with identity theft. So there are 3 categories. Government is planning with all the relevant stakeholders, and we are coming up with a policy to this challenge and issue, because it's directly now linked to the kind of new emerging threats which we are facing on the count of terrorism. What would be those measures? It's premature to discuss it on a public forum because it may compromise the operational outcomes of those initiatives. But I can assure you that we have a strategic visibility and clarity on this issue, and we are coming up with a plan no sooner than, I'll leave the time frame. We will come up with a policy.
First question is, what you think about the international community are really want to support Pakistan for the economic cooperation? Is it that your feeling, or is it just a conversation? And second one, defense cooperation between Turkey and Pakistan recently is going well. Also Saudi Arabia and other countries, which is they are supporting Pakistan too. Now, as we learned, economically the support is come. So do you have a feeling that for short term or middle term, some positive changes will come for Pakistan? What is your message for that?
First of all, I do accept that there is a lot of similarities and commonalities between the experiment of Turkey and Pakistan. The Kurdish question is more or less like what we are facing in Balochistan. Then what is happening across Syria is what we are experiencing to our next neighbor in Afghanistan. Our quasi-democratic experiment where we have a history of alternate role of governance is again very much similar to the experience of Turkey. But economic trajectory or projection, particularly your placement on the borders of the European continent and your bargain position to negotiate with the so-called membership of EU, which if not has win or given you the membership, at least it rose the living standards and the delivery standards of the Turkish society, that it started competing in a very viable economic manner on its own. And it's an amazing experiment, and there is a lot for us to learn. Yes, there is a lot of talk here in Pakistan on sometime on our economic potential, sometime on our strategic placement, sometime we project probably ourselves as the pivot of Asia. I do hear all these things too. Is it just a talk or from where does we take this new optimist inspiration? One, I take it from my province, from where I come. We have got a Titian belt, which is more or less gifted with around, a conservative estimate is around $6 trillion of natural resources, which includes copper and gold, which includes rare earth material. It was already there, so what is new? The new is that we have a economically viable project of Reko, which is happening with the big boys of copper and gold, and it would start working by the end of December. So once it is initiated, it is worth or more or less near $600 to $700 billion worth project. The two holes, which is H11, H14, is around 3 square kilometer width and around 4 square kilometer length, which has these deposits based on scientific evidence and data, and it has turned the value of that mud into $700 billion. So it was there, but the scientific evidence was not available, so we couldn't claim that it is that much ore. Now this is new. The surrounding areas, we have got partners who has the financial capacity to invest and explore and do all the required seismic surveys and the drillings and bring it into a viable economic model. So can those country or groups on the basis of their financial capacity can do it on their own? No. For instance, Saudis or for instance, Emiratis or others. So they have to club in with the technical expertise, maybe Canadian, maybe Chilean, maybe Australian, maybe Americans. And this model is actually happening, and at an extended level, the players outside the region have also started realizing, and a stake, though an indirect one, is being created in the economic model of Pakistan. So we are hopeful that all these stakeholders or the players, which we would be having some sort of stakes in the exploration of all these projects, would start viewing Pakistan with a very different prism. And once these legitimate economic interests are there, they would be interested in our economic stability, and they would love to see a secure and protected Pakistan, not just for itself, but for the whole of the region. And the kind of negative perception and negative press which usually we had for many years and years and years, my anticipation is that it's going to change. And it's going to change slowly, gradually, depending that how consistent we are on pursuing all these goals. And if we are there, consistent at least for 2 years or so, my own assessment is the entire branding and rebranding of Pakistan would transform.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to attend this meeting. Excellency, I have 2 questions. First one, how your government see the priorities with regards to Russia-Pakistani relations? This is first. And second, with regards to the crude oil deal. As I think 3 weeks ago, appeared several speculations that Pakistani refinery factories have stopped refinery activity over the already purchased Russian crude oil. Is that true? And what actually your government is planning with regards to this issue? Thanks.
I luckily in my last few months in the parliament, I had the chance to visit Russia twice. I was there in Moscow and St. Petersburg. I interacted with a few think tanks over there. And the third, Rome is beautiful. I was mesmerized by St. Petersburg. It's a beautiful city, no doubt about that. Russia is a major and important player in the region. And we do take in account its military and economic potential. And how does it has implications for its initial orbit of influence, which probably is Central Asia, and then its strategic presence in the Eastern Europe too. It's not just that, but it has a sizable presence in Middle East and North Africa. So we do see in the right measurement the actual placement of the Russia where it should be. Pakistan explores and seeks new venues of a very fresh start, which is not linked where we do not dwell in the past. We do understand that Russian Federation carries the legacy of post-Soviet Union, but it definitely is not a Stalinist or Marxist tradition which it is carrying. Yes, Russian Federation has its own idea of identity, and we appreciate and understand that, and we want to have a very constructive relationship with them. As far as the crude oil is concerned, our infrastructure of refinery was not based on the model where we could import and refine a lot of Russian oil. So this is one of the impediment. There is no policy hindrance to have oil get imported from Russia. So we are exploring not just the oil trade and other areas also where we can have some constructive relationship with Russia. Thank you.
निगरान वज़ीर आज़म अनवारुल हक काकड़ गैर मुल्की मीडिया नुमाइंदगान से इस्लामाबाद में गुफ्तगू कर रहे थे। उन्होंने कहा कि हम अपने आइनी मैंडेट से आगे नहीं बढ़ सकते, आइनी तौर पर हुकूमती निज़ाम में कोई बड़ी तब्दीली नहीं ला सकते। निगरान हुकूमत की आइनी जिम्मेदारी इंतखाबात में मावनत फराहम करना है। निगरान वज़ीर आज़म अनवारुल हक काकड़ ने मज़ीद कहा कि तमाम शोबों के लिए बजट मुख्तस करना पार्लियामेंट का काम है।
So juicy, so yummy. Introducing the all-new Sabroso Crispy Chicken Strips. Tastes so good that nothing else matters. Sabroso Crispy Chicken Strips. So crispy, so tender.
Hi girls! I love going out. लेकिन ये आउटिंग्स कर देती हैं मेरी स्किन को डल, छुप जाता है मेरा ग्लो। इसीलिए मैं यूज करती हूँ पाम ऑयल नेचुरल्स, मिल्क और रोज पेटल्स एक्सट्रैक्ट से बना, मेरी स्किन को बनाए सॉफ्ट एंड ग्लोइंग। पाम ऑयल नेचुरल्स, यू कैन फील इट।
ओह नो, कजिन का फर्स्ट फंक्शन ऑन माय फर्स्ट डे, अगर स्टेन लग गया तो उन दिनों में एम्बैरेसमेंट से बचने के लिए ट्राई द न्यू ऑलवेज एक्स्ट्रा लॉन्ग, जो दे आम पैड के मुकाबले 1-2-3 गुना ज्यादा प्रोटेक्शन। अब एक्स्ट्रा लॉन्ग ऑलवेज के 3 गुना तहफ़्फ़ुज़ से रहो एक्स्ट्रा कॉन्फिडेंट। न्यू ऑलवेज एक्स्ट्रा लॉन्ग।
अल कबीर ऑर्चर्ड, बुकिंग सिर्फ 2.5 लाख रुपए से, माहाना किस्त सिर्फ 8,500 रुपए।
आज होगा टक्कर का मुकाबला, बिहारी, अचार और तेल का तड़का। अब इन्हें सिर्फ एक चक्कर में करेगा साफ नया एरियल। एक को धोएंगे आम पाउडर से और दूसरे को नए एरियल से।
नया और बेहतर एरियल।